So guys, it's been a busy period for me. I've been really busy. A lot of things going on. As you all know, I did not appear on the Boxing Gossip podcast this week. Family commitments and such to deal with. So apologies in advance. I think I did the live stream earlier on in the week. I can't remember off the top of my head. As I said, so much going on. But I've been meaning to do this video, and I'm gonna break a few hearts. Not in that sort of way, but yeah. I mean, look, I'm gonna put out an opinion there that's gonna be impartial to say the least, but insightful, I hope. And what I'm going to talk about is exposure in boxing, and sort of promoters as well, ever so slightly, because they tie in, especially domestically, I guess, and in the states to an extent as well. So I mean, look, let's do a brief rundown. This will probably be a slightly longer video than my normal ones. So if you get turned off by me talking for an extended period of time, please do not watch this. But yeah, I mean, Eddie Hearn is with Sky, Frank Warren, BoxNation, Mick Hennessy tend to be with Channel 5. Cyclone tend to, float around, kind of do their own thing. The last time they were together, they were with Channel 5. They can go around to ITV, similar to the Frampton Avalos fight, I think it was, which was on ITV. So they tend to move around a lot. Obviously, Carl Frampton with Al Heyman. And yeah, in the States, they kind of have HBO with Top Rank and Showtime and terrestrial TV with Al Heyman and the sort of other promoters, Lou DiBella, those sort of guys. So and Golden Boy tend to be on HBO as well, actually. So yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a divide. I mean, terrestrial TV is booming, or to some reports is doing well enough. I guess it's not doing terrible, but it's not doing great. And seen in some of the paychecks. I mean, Amir Khan got a massive payday for the Chris Algieri fight. James DeGale got a good payday for the Lucian Bute fight. So it kind of works out, I guess. I don't know how the sort of mechanics work in particular. I do have a rough understanding because my cousin has a great brain and has detailed some of the stuff for me. But I'd have to get him to maybe come on a channel and try and explain, and then he'd be happy to explain, I think. But yeah, I mean, talking about exposure, so that's kind of the promoter side. The exposure, I mean, Irish Tom actually gave me this video kind of to mull over, and after he had a rant at me on the gossip phone-in show earlier on, last week I think it was, and I mean it was just I mean, look. Let's talk about domestically, because I think many people will look at it from a domestic standpoint. Many of the hardcore guys that tune into my channel will tune in like from domestic guys, and the George Groves and those sort of guys. I get a lot of comments on those videos, so we'll kind of kick off with that. Sorry, and yeah, I mean it's a tough one. Look, Eddie Hearn has a sort of I'd say more star-studded stable, but maybe not as talented, I guess. And before I start this sort of exposure and and that sort of stuff, he said I need to get off the Eddie Hearn sort of hype train. I actually hate Sky. I hate Sky. And I don't really like BoxNation either. Actually, to be fair, I prefer BoxNation because of the international coverage, but in terms of their domestic content, it's not that great. But I side with no promoter at all whatsoever. I'm very just standoffish, but it is interesting to see the sort of exposure and promoter side of boxing and explore it in a bit more detail. Also, the Sauerlands, they tend to be on Sky Sports and have their own shows in Germany, so they're in and around as well. So yeah, I mean, Frank Warren, as I said, he delivers a lot of international coverage. I don't know if that takes away from his, his sort of fighter budget, because some of his fights recently have been terrible, to be honest. Liam Williams versus Gary Corcoran was a decent fight. I mean, a decent little scrap. But the undercard, Terry Flanagan versus Fana, and those sort of guys. I mean, Jamie Conlon in a blowout. I mean, for my money, Michael Collins much better than Jamie, but that's another story for another day. Um, these sort of guys, they're decent fighters. I mean, Terry Flanagan's a world champion. Billy Joe Saunders hasn't fought in a year. Liam Smith's fighting Canelo. That's a good fight for him. I mean, he's getting good money. He's getting much better money than what he's been getting recently. And people actually watch the fight, as opposed to the Predrag Radosevic fight, where around 1,000 people came to Liverpool Echo, and Tony Belly's fighting BJ Flores there in October. That will be close to selling out. Let's put it that way. Liam Smith, no one knows who he is. That's the problem, and that's the problem with Frank's fighters nowadays. They're really really good fighters. Don't get me wrong. Liam Smith's a very good fighter in his own right. I don't think he's the sort of top three at super welterweight or light middleweight, whatever you want to call it. But he's certainly a top 10 fighter at that weight. He's very he's very competent. But against Canelo, I think he's going to lose that fight. But he's gotten a good fight. Why can't Frank get him? Why can't Frank get his other fighters like Liam Williams? Pushing against like maybe the Jack Colsey's of the world. Jack Colsey's a regular WBA 154 champion. Erisani Lara is the super champion. Jack Colsey has subsequently moved on to face Demetrius Andre, and he'll probably end up losing that fight if Andre's on his A game. So I mean, it's a tough one. It really is. Terry Flanagan. Look who Anthony Corliss fought, and he's got a massive profile from that. Two Darlis Perez fights, and an Ismael Barroso fight. That was probably many people probably picked him to lose against Darlis Perez. I actually picked him to win against Darlis Perez, but to lose against Barroso. So obviously I got one wrong, but that happens, and I think loads of people picked Barroso to beat him after what Barroso did to Kevin Mitchell. So Anthony Corliss come through and he's done reasonably well for himself, and he's not headlining on Sky pay-per-view, but he's headlining the normal basic sort of Sky shows, and they're doing decently. And he's doing well for himself in Manchester. Terry Flanagan, no one knows who he is, and this is I know this is just a comparison between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren fighter, but there is a massive gulf in interest and exposure in this respect, and it's really bad, because Frank has some great fighters, as I've said. He has some top fighters, but talent wise, Liam Walsh should have got he's got an eliminator against Andrei Klimov for an IBF eliminator, and he should have had this probably a year, 18 months ago, and that's the problem. That really is a problem now. His fighters seem to stagnate. Same with Eddie Hearn, to be honest. Lucian Reed went to BoxNation to try and get more opportunities. I really haven't heard anything much from Ted Cheeseman, Jake Ball, the kind of younger sort of prospects, not the more known sort of guys. Then again, you do have Rocky Fielding, who hasn't been in a meaningful fight since the Christopher Brass fight. And then you have some other guys, Paul Smith, Stephen Smith. What are they doing? I mean, exposure now is everything, and it's key. I know we have Anthony Joshua in this era, but you can't really look at Anthony Joshua because he's one. I know it's so cliche to say he's not one in a million, I would say, but he's certainly a very rare anomaly. And in comparison to the sort of very good fighters in their division, Jamie McDonald, those sort of guys, they're very, very good fighters. Like, I'm not going to say they're better than AJ or whatever, pound for pound or whatever, because that's another discussion for another day and another video. But they're certainly, top fighters in their own division, and they're not getting the sort of exposure that they should be getting, because, it's much, much tougher to sell nowadays. And The casual fan, the hardcore fan, who buys into it, is a demand for it. You got to look at certain things and certain aspects, and Sky Sports they're doing good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not doing great. BoxNation are doing okay, but they're not doing great either. I mean, the competition is healthy. You could say at times, but most of the time it's quite toxic. Frank's a very bitter person in his interviews. I hate watching his interviews. I can't sit through his interviews. Eddie Hearn, he's not so much bitter, but he has sly digs at Frank, and they just go back and forth, and it's just a joke, really, to be honest. You don't really want to see. You want to see, promoters putting on the best fights possible between their best fighters, Terry Flanagan and Anthony Crolla. I think he's put Crolla in possibly to lose against Linares because he doesn't want Frank and Terry Flanagan to get any sort of exposure on Sky Sports. And maybe that's just maybe that's my opinion and theory, but Eddie Hearn is all about his cha-ching. Let's be honest, and he's done well for himself. But there comes a time when you've got to put the fighter first, and maybe in this Kell Brook thing, I don't think he's put the fighter first. Kell Brook's getting a lot of money and stuff. Like some of the blame has to go to his management also. Actually, I think his father is his manager, but he could have got good a sizable payday as well for beating Jesse Vargas. But obviously something's gone wrong, and he's fighting Gennady Golovkin. He's going to live off that fight now. So I don't think he can make 147 again. I think the guys were talking about it on the podcast. I was listening to it, yesterday and the day before. But I mean, it's a tough one. It really, really is. I don't know what to make of it, and they say have the same in the. They have the same in the States as well. I mean, you have the sort of guys, it's a tough one. You have Canelo, obviously, on HBO. You have, Lomachenko, those sort of guys, Crawford. And they're fighting on HBO, but, HBO is dwindling, and they're not able to, kind of project their interest, the boxing interest to the, the mainstream sort of market. Even the sort of hardcore fans, I don't know, they'll end up streaming or something like that. They won't end up paying the pay-per-view. I mean, paying for Crawford Postal was embarrassing, to be honest. They have some really, really top fighters there. I mean, Canelo, as I said, Crawford, Lomachenko, Oscar Valdez. They're all with Top Rank. Canelo's with obviously Golden Boy. But I mean, they had Luis Ortiz. He's had some contractual issues with Golden Boy. They had some really, really solid fighters, talented fighters. But I mean, the exposure is not going to go far enough, and Lomachenko might suffer from someone like that. Lomachenko, I really, really, I like him. I rate him. One of my favorite fighters at this moment in time, actually, to be honest. He's not going to be given sort of justice in terms of his his pocket and maybe his legacy, because one, people are going to avoid him, and two, the network might not the network might not broadcast because of rights with Al Heyman fighters, that sort of stuff. I know the Cold War, they're saying the Cold War in boxing is supposed to be over, but these fighters are not going to fight each other for whatever reason. Promotional, contractual, networks, anything like that. And it really is a problem nowadays. I think. So when Irish Tom was saying, this, that, and the other about I like Sky and this, that, you know what? It's all a load of BS, to be honest. I'll be totally honest, and I always am in my videos. All the networks have issues with them, and they are, taking something away from boxing and taking something away from the fans. And I think it really is a problem nowadays. We need to sort it out. Exposure is not everything. We just need to enjoy the fights for what they are. But has money become so important in boxing? We have to look at it. I don't know if it is or not, but it seems that way, and that really is a problem moving forward. As I said, looking at it from a UK standpoint, you can kind of see Frank Warren. He has some top fighters, but exposure's not really there. Eddie Hearn, he has some good fighters, but in terms of marketability, it's a tough one because of Anthony Joshua. And Sky really just forcing the pay-per-view thing down everyone's throats. So it's a tough one. I mean, I don't know what everyone thinks, but please do let me know in the comment section. This was it wasn't really a rant. I don't know. I just thought I'd get something out there and get people talking about this sort of stuff, because it doesn't really get mentioned. I mean, we all have a chat in the sort of live chat on people's shows and that sort of stuff, but it's not really talked about in enough detail, and I think it's a problem. It's it's a slow burning cancer on the sport, I think, in terms of this sort of cold war, if you want to call it, or third wave of not negotiating, or whatever you want to call it. It really is damaging the sport to an extent, and yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, look, fundamentally, UK based, there are problems with Sky Sports, there are problems with Frank Warren and BoxNation. Mick Hennessy doesn't have massive stable of fighters. Cyclone, I think, are doing fantastic for themselves, and Carl Frampton, their fighters, they're getting some decent broadcasting over the, over the globe. To be honest, Carl Frampton's been over to the States. He's boxed over here, Sky Sports, BoxNation, Channel 5, ITV. Conrad Cummings has been on Sky Sports, I think, as well. Josh Taylor, I think, has been on Sky Sports. So some of them, what they're doing is very, very smart, calculated, but also it's the right thing to do, I think, for the fighters. And that way, they're not, tied down to any sort of one promoter or one network. And I think that's the right way to go. So kudos to Cyclone Promotions. I'm not a fan of Barry McGuigan, but Shane and Carl, yeah, I like them. I like their stuff. But Barry McGuigan has done a good thing with Cyclone Promotions, I think. So I have to give him, the big thumbs up for that, actually. But yeah, please do let me know your thoughts. I know this has been a longer one. As I said, shout out to Irish Tom. Actually, he gave me this sort of nous to kind of go for this, and gave me this sort of just push, since he was talking about it on the live show. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on it. See what you make of the exposure: Sky Sports, BoxNation, HBO, Showtime, CBS, NBC, all that good stuff. To be honest, just let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, please give the thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Share and subscribe so it gets out to a larger boxing audience. And yeah, we've tailed off on subscribers a bit, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, if people are not enjoying the content, then feel free to unsub. If you like it, please do sub, and let's just help the channel continually grow. Thanks a lot, guys, and take care. Speak to you soon. Peace.